All right, so today I'm going to be demonstrating a really large piece. Like, this is massive. It's about 2 feet across, maybe more. Um, and I'm going to be folding a pattern called Atolls, which is an alternate ending of Chiva Rumbera from Advent of Tess. And I'm going to just go for it. I'm being very careful here to find the correct grid line to start. This is in my series of patterns that use only open hexagon and closed triangle twists. And yeah, I'm just gonna run with it. I'll zoom in just a sec. But you're welcome to drop some comments. I'm happy to talk while I fold. In fact, I forgot to grab my headphones, so I will not have any music to listen to. So I greatly encourage y'all talking with me. And I'd say a decent bit of this is going to be pushed off, like the action will be pushed off center relative to the screen because of physical constraints of the size of my desk, which will get better as we go because the paper won't be as big anymore. So yeah, starting with an open hexagon on the front side. And I'll squash. And then the next triangles are on the same side, but the hexagon after is on the opposite side. And we're using tube plate spacing everywhere today. If you really wanted to, you could space everything one spacing closer together or further away. That's how these hexagon and triangle, well, the six-fold hexagon and triangle patterns work. And I'll go around, putting in my overlaps clockwise. Because that'll make it easier to get the twists on the other side. But yeah, lots of open hexagon and closed triangle twists today. You can see that compound wrap is very natural for me to just put in even before the pleats for the twist are in place. And flip. Trying to think which one I want to start on, given the compound wrap placement. Then all the triangles are going to be on that first side. So I'm going to have a triangle wrap right here. And so far this has been exactly the same as the Chiva Rumbera pattern that I did a tutorial for in Advent of Test 2024. And that video is also on my YouTube channel. But instead of treating these hexagons as positions of threefold rotational symmetry, I'm gonna start treating them as asymmetric positions once we get into the next ring around the center. So you can't tell what symmetry position a twist is just by looking at the twist. You can't tell really even when you first put that twist into place, because this one, like, I mean, since I'm putting the next triangles on the opposite side, I know it can't be a position of twofold rotational symmetry, because that would require those triangles to be on this side. But I could still totally fold this paper into a pattern that treated those hexagons as positions of threefold rotational symmetry. And you just don't know, as an outside observer, whether those symmetry options are going to be taken or not. And that's something I carry over to my more complex designs that actually use twists that are squashed asymmetrically. Sometimes multiple different ones in the same pattern. And like the cell walls pattern that I'm going to be talking about a lot this week has four different asymmetric hexagon twist positions. So, welcome, Chris. This is a 80 division grid with a weird rotation angle. It's at, or not angle, but fraction. I set it up with the fraction 15/19. So that's the angle, or the fraction to get the pleated border on the pattern. But yeah, it's a very large grid. So the grid is both more of a divisions than I usually use, and it's also on larger paper than I usually use. Although it might look like a pretty normal size for these videos. I don't really fold on this size outside of these videos. Yeah, the 24 fold would get you out to here, and including these triangles. That much is actually the same as the Chiva Rumbera pattern that I taught in Advent of Test this last year. And actually, I guess I should tell a story of how I initially designed Chiva Rumbera. I was at the 5th Convention for Creators of Origami in Bogota, Colombia, and we had a party bus at the end of the conference or convention, and that party bus is named a Chiva Rumbera. So it's a party on wheels. Let's see. So from here, I want to be careful to set up the pattern that I want, which is going to require a triangle here. I'll wrap it. So if the next hexagon was on the same side, it would be Chiva Rumbera, but I'm doing something different, which I named Atolls, for the islands that are formed by buildup of coral. And so the next hexagon is over here. And let's see. Let's go this way. So yeah, I've got that little cluster of 3, and that's going to be the main motif of the pattern. Well, from this side, cluster of 3 holes. One thing that's really convenient about this pattern is all of the triangles are the same size on the same side of the paper, so I don't have to think that much about what's going on with the triangles. It's all about what's going on with the hexagons, which themselves are pretty simplified because it's all open hexagon twists. So it's all about which side of the paper is this hexagon on. Well, and then the other variable is distance. But in this pattern, the distance is all tube plate spacing, so that's also pretty straightforward. So if you haven't folded many hexagon and triangle patterns, one of the things that I'm doing here is every time I put in a hexagon, I also put in 2 triangles. And that is a rule that applies to many, many, many patterns. All of the ones that have 6 triangles around each hexagon, 3 hexagons around each triangle. So even though there's infinitely many origami tessellation designs, patterns that are possible, there are commonalities. And so, for example, like I've never folded this pattern before, but I know exactly how to fold it because I have folded patterns that use the same structure, what I was talking about before with the 6 triangles around every hexagon and 3 hexagons around every triangle. And I've done patterns in that structure with the same application of symmetry. So 6-fold position in the central hexagon, 3-fold position in one of these outer triangles with the next hexagon around the center in an asymmetric position. And so I know things about these patterns, like in this ring around the center, I'll complete the groups of 3 hexagons that are in asymmetric positions, but I will not see repeats of the center. And so I can just kind of cruise around doing my 2 triangles per hexagon, knowing that all of my hexagons will be on this side of the paper. And all my triangles will be on the other side. And they're at 2 plate spacing. So once you really kind of ingest the pattern, once you really get it in you, there are these structures, these similarities that pop out, and then you're able to just go and fold. Good morning, Victor. Glad you're enjoying the folding. So yeah, there's a lot of similarities across patterns that dictate how you fold them. And then, oh, thank you. And then just by sheer repetition, I've figured out a lot of the similarities between patterns, even within that structural category. And I say sheer repetition, it's also drawing things out on the computer and seeing, like, oh, this has to be that way, actually. Like the bit I was saying about this ring around the center being all these asymmetric positions. That's something that I can draw out and show you. Comes down to coloring the pattern of shapes in a certain way, and then you can say, okay, this one's the center, and then the next set around that are all these, and then the next set around that are all those. And it becomes quite predictable once you've gotten that drawing made. Actually, that's one of the things I'm going to be doing later today, is making those kinds of drawings. I call them tiling diagrams, for a couple new tilings for my Tessellation Academy students. And these particular drawings won't come out until December because I'm getting way ahead. So I have lots of time to prep for Advent of Tess this year. Let's see, I think it's going to be easier just to come over here. Yeah, there's lots of cool things going on in Tessellation Academy. The other thing coming up that I'll be working on this week is advanced twist techniques. So one of my plans for today is getting the new crease patterns that go with this year's lectures into the Advanced Twist Techniques course. Good morning, Arlo. I was just talking about what I'm doing the rest of the day, making some tiling diagrams for Tessellation Academy for December. But yeah, the next couple months of Tessellation Academy actually are going to be very related to what I'm talking about in Advanced Twist Techniques, where we're going to be exploring a lot of different tiling options that start with a particular sequence of twists. So like hexagon, then triangle, then another hexagon, and then it goes off the rails. Or hexagon, then triangle, then rhombus, or hexagon, then triangle, then trapezoid. So those will be the Tessellation Academy topics for the next 3 months. This month's topic, which we're having the theory and design workshop tomorrow. Oh, thank you. This month's topic for Tessellation Academy is using right triangle and square twist together. So that's a very large topic. It's actually the second time that we're talking about using right triangle and square twist together. And so we have some really cool patterns. This one particular tiling that lends itself to isoarea designs that are the same on both sides. And that actually is a tiling property where you have to have the same number of shapes in both right-handed and left-handed positions for the whole structure in order for the actual choices of twists to be the same on both sides. Oh yeah. Yeah, Tessellation Academy is where it's at. Like, Erlu can tell you, he's in there. And you can see more details at training.gatheringfolds.com/academy. We do a new topic every month. There's 2 tutorials and 6 other crease patterns, plus the 2 crease patterns from the tutorials, and all kinds of good stuff, and the workshop recordings. And I've been running Tessellation Academy since February of last year of 2023. No, 24. Last year's 24. And that means that there's, let's see, it's month 6, so there's 17 past months in there, and everyone who joins also gets access to the past recordings. So good times over in Tessellation Academy. We actually did a whole topic on open hexagon and closed triangle twists, which would include this pattern, like seeing how did I come up with this pattern. And there's a great diagram in there of like, okay, if you're starting from the center, you have this choice. Or in the case of the open hexagon closed triangle patterns, it's like, well, you're gonna, if you're starting in the hexagons and triangles 6-fold tiling, you're gonna have your hexagon, your open hexagon in the center, and then your triangles are gonna be either on the front or the back relative to the hexagon. And then your next hexagon is gonna be either on the front or the back relative to the central hexagon. And then the next triangles are going to be either on the front or the back. And then you can see like, okay, what are the special symmetry cases? What are some of the other things that can happen? What are the other tilings that use hexagons and triangles that can be used with these two twists? And so really going deep into what are all the options. And I think I've come up with another like 2 options since I made, since I talked about all of that in Tessellation Academy. So there's even more now. There's, like, I think the last one I came up with was in the hexagons and triangles 6-fold tiling, but using the hexagons in positions of 2-fold rotational symmetry. So there is no position of 6-fold rotational symmetry in the pattern. And it's actually the same on both sides. It's a really cool one. Maybe I'll do a live stream of it someday. Okay, so I made it all the way around the center. Now the next set of repeats are going to have some twists that are copies of the very center. So here's my positions of 3-fold symmetry. That's a position of 2-fold symmetry. And so if I want to start stuff on this pleat, okay, 2-fold symmetry, that puts the center here. Oh, and one of the cool things about these patterns where like you have those 4 twist, well, the central twist isn't a choice because you only have one option, but the inner triangle, outer hexagon, outer triangle, once you make those choices, there's still multiple ways to repeat those chunks. And that's something where like there's 3 pleats coming out of those chunks. And so you've got 3 pleats and you want to connect them with 3 other pleats, and it's pleats coming from a hexagon, a triangle, and another hexagon. And you can't connect hexagon to hexagon. So you can connect them this way, or you can connect them this way. And then the distance apart in those connection styles is what determines the size of the triangle twist. And so there's generally like 3 ways to get closed triangle twists with those 2 connection styles, because as you slide further out in one of those styles, you will be able to go from a closed triangle on one side in the position of threefold symmetry to a closed triangle on the opposite side of the paper, but that tends to use a lot of grid. And so now I have a lot of designs where it's not clear if I'll ever fold them because they just take way too much grid. But part of the reason I'm doing this series with the open hexagon and closed triangle twists is so that eventually I can put together an exhibition. Random ant fell from the ceiling. And do like a combinatorics explanation presentation of these various patterns. Okay. So one of the really neat things about these open hexagon closed triangle twists, one of the special properties, is that if you take a open hexagon with closed triangles on the same side as it on 6 sides, and then you take those all to the opposite side of the paper, the pleats coming out are exactly the same. So I could have just as well put this central hexagon with the 6 triangles on the opposite side of the paper, and that would create a different pattern. These twists are just super flexible. The other thing is, the other special property that I demonstrate the usefulness of in Tessellation Academy is that when you have an open hexagon on one side and closed triangles on the other, you end up with 2 spaces between valley folds here and 2 spaces between mountain folds here. And so those pleats, when you flip the paper over, match up with themselves. It's a little bit insane, because that's not how these things usually work. Usually there's different distances between the pairs of mountains and the pairs of valleys. And so if you flip them over, they would not match up. But open hexagon and closed triangle is a very special combination. That's part of why I chose it to do the combinatorial series, because you can get more things with this combination than with other pairs of hexagon and triangle twists. So as I go around this ring around the center, I'll have one copy of the center and then two of the asymmetric position. And then that will repeat. So each layer of the pattern has its own, I guess, characteristic rhythm. And as you go out, as you add layers, that rhythm gets longer. I mean, for this application of symmetry. In this application of symmetry, you never get to repeat, like, you never get to have the same pattern in a ring that's further out. Like, when you have, I'll grab another pattern that I finished last night, when you have, and this, I'm going to call it a hexagon. It has 6 pleats, but it's disguised as a rhombus or diamond. When you have these positions of symmetry with the next hexagon in a position of twofold symmetry, you have rings around the center that are all the twofold position, and then you have rings that are alternating 6-fold, twofold, 6-fold, twofold. And then you have all twofold, and then you have alternating 6-fold, twofold. So that's a simpler set of things to remember. Although in that particular example, it was a hybrid twist, which is not so simple to remember if you're not used to them. And now, yeah, so earlier brought up that they have difficulty with folding when you need to turn the paper over a lot. That's something that a lot of people have difficulty with. So you're not alone in that. And I would say the key thing for me is, like, what I'm doing right now is setting up the position of the next hexagon by finding these triangles first and laying them down flat. And then when I flip, I have a 3D area that I'm working on. And yeah, some of these things, it's a matter of practice and training your eye. But there's also some technique to it. So now I know I have those two triangle wraps to come back to and squash. And then I'm paying attention with this one, like, do I want to do a compound wrap there? And actually no, because the next hexagon will be on this side. And it's not a triangle wrap there because the next triangle is on this side. I would say the main thing that I do when I'm flipping sides a lot is often there will be wraps involved, and that'll tell me exactly where to put the next thing. Or I'll set it up in a way that makes it 3D where I need to work on it next. Or I'll flip while holding the pleat that I need to work on next. And those are all ways that I help myself orient on the new side what I need to do. So now that's a 3D space, and flip. Yeah, so if you're looking at the crease pattern, then exactly, you would be swapping all the mountains and valleys and mirroring, either horizontally or vertically, however you want to do that, to swap the crease pattern from front to back. Hello, hello. Welcome. Working my way around, getting close to halfway around this ring around the center. Yeah. And let's see. Gonna need another triangle on the back, or a hexagon on the back. Yeah, I think earlier the other thing that I do is ignore the crease pattern a lot. So like right now I have the crease pattern up, but I haven't been looking at it for a while because I deconstructed it into, okay, we have central hexagon, central triangle, outer hexagon, outer triangle, threefold triangle. And those are all the parts of the pattern. And conveniently, all the triangles are closed and on one side of the paper. And all of the hexagons are open and you can distinguish the two positions by saying, okay, these positions are the hexagons on this side, and those positions are the hexagons on the other side. So when I'm flipping the paper over, I don't actually need to look at the crease pattern to figure out what I'm doing next. I'm just looking at the paper itself. Now that works once you have all of those different positions on the paper, but before that, yeah, it is more challenging to find the twists when you need to flip a lot in the initial setup. So one of the things about me is I might be the person that is most obsessed with origami tessellations in the world. I mean, it's entirely possible that I'm not, but it's also entirely possible that I am. And so when I found out that my local library was doing an adult show and tell night last night, I signed up right away, and brought some corrugations, some tessellations, to show off. And we ended up having some extra time at the end, so I did a little herringbone corrugation lesson for the people who were interested. And that was a lot of fun. Just seeing people just really asking a lot of questions about the tessellations, and really investigating like what's going on here, what are the applications and implications for other disciplines, and really diving into it. So part of my goal with these videos is to help other people become obsessed with origami tessellations. Oh yeah. Corrugations are just so fun to like pass around and watch people be like, okay, in and out, in and out. And they're usually easier to fold than what I'm doing right now. So it's a good intro thing for getting people their first taste of the repeating pattern origami world. I think it would be pretty difficult to combine corrugations with twist-based stuff. But you could definitely like fold a twist-based pattern and then fold a corrugation on top of it that uses some similar origami or some similar geometry. Yeah. Yeah, it is very rare to combine the corrugations and the twist-based tessellations. And like, it's funny that we don't call corrugations tessellations because mathematically they often are. Of course, corrugations have a lot more degrees of freedom that are not restricted to patterns that strictly repeat. So there's, I'm going to say mathematical reasons not to call them tessellations. But yeah, it's really cool. Just all the things that can be done with origami. And even these very geometric styles that are very unlimited given how many restrictions there are on the style. Like, I am folding patterns from a single sheet of paper that have the potential to repeat infinitely and use rotating bits that lay down flat. And there are infinitely many of them. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, I've been seeing more and more representational folders throwing in some tessellation elements, like Boyce's Samurai with the square twists, and well, everything that Beth Johnson does. And yeah, it's really neat to see that spreading. Okay, so I've got one more set of parallel pleats to finish up this ring around the center, and then I'll probably do a little bit more and then call it a day, because been folding for an hour already, starting to get hungry. Had a very small breakfast. And then I have a office hour for my Tessellations by Tiles and Tessellation Starter Sequence students at noon, which is in just under an hour. So priority. There's this little tiny fiber that's dark colored that I do not want to get mashed in there. And getting real close to the end of this ring around the center. Flip. And cut. And squash. And next one's also on the back. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna do at least one edge of the next ring around the center. I'll start here. And that hexagon's gonna be on the back. And flip and triangles. Actually, we get to experiment and find out whether this ring around the center has any hexagons on the front, because I don't think I actually know. I don't think it would, but you never actually know with these guys. I mean, I could look and find out. But I could also fold and find out. At some point in this tiling, there comes a time when there is always a copy of the central twist in the ring around the center. Or in the symmetry application on this tiling. I'm not sure that we're there yet. Okay, so the next one goes We've got these guys. On this side. Wait, no, the one that goes out here, but is that what I'm... No, I'm folding on these pleats and that. Okay, goes to the back. Okay, so we're narrowly avoiding another copy of the central twist. It's just a matter of how we locate this guy, because it's on these skinny plates and they're both long distances. And I think I'm just gonna have to go, okay, I have a count of 5 until the valley. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then this guy is going to be much easier to find. And so it looks like we're going to get this cluster of 3 completely done, and then this guy solo. And well, I'll do the next. Well, I'm already feeding around the corner and into the next set of parallel plates. That'll be about it for today. So we'll be able to see what the edge is going to look like of the pattern as a whole. And like I mentioned at the beginning, I did a specifically rotated grid so that I would have a nice even border, which in this situation does not line up with how the pattern repeats. But again, I knew that going in. But yeah, one more hexagon, we'll have a clear view of what the corner of the pattern is going to look like once the whole thing is finished. Okay. Do the triangles real quick. Okay, so this is what the corner will look like in the end. We'll have some single, some triple, some double, and then single, triple, back into the double in the corner. So yeah, that's what the whole thing is going to look like eventually. Here's more of the centered view. And yeah, this is a pattern named Atolls. And it's, yeah, named for the islands built up from coral reefs. The very center bit is Chiva Rumbera. If you were to treat this hexagon as a position of threefold rotational symmetry, aka have that triangle be as far away as these guys. And yeah, it's a fun pattern to fold. Relatively simple because it is using open hexagon and closed triangle twists, which are both basic twists. And you can find as many patterns as you want with only basic twists if you play with how the symmetry interacts with the underlying tiling. So happy folding, everyone. Make sure to check out Tessellation Academy and Advanced Twist Techniques. Those are places where I do a lot more explaining of what's going on, how you can create your own designs, and also have a lot more examples of things that match these ideas. So happy folding. See you next week.